my opinion, the action is far better. Far from home, bro. It's far better.
Let them fight.
Welcome to the Podcastle. Feels good to be here. You know, I've been talking about doing a podcast for a while with my brother here, and it's about time. It's been months in the making. So, glad to be here. Tanner, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Tay. I stream on Twitch, Tay Truly. Check me out. I'll put that in the description.
I gotta plug it.
Plug it. Today we're going to be talking about Batman versus No Way Home.
Yeah, it's a pretty good topic there, I have to say. We have very strong feelings about it. However, we have very different feelings about it. But first off, I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of what the podcast is going to be about. It's going to be more of like a pop culture podcast where we're going to talk about movies, shows, superheroes, video games, stuff like that along that vein. Teens and adults are sort of our target audience. I'd say if you're a kid, probably okay to watch this, but
No, it ain't.
shut up.
Not bad, bro.
I want the views. I'm planning on posting one of these every Sunday. So there might be a random one every now and then, but Sunday is your best bet for catching the podcast. So if you like this, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I want to hear feedback. Like, what do you guys think we could do better? Like, how could we improve the format? How could we improve the podcast? You know, I'm always here to get some constructive criticism. Tanner's not, because he's a baby. He can't take any. But,
Okay.
Once again, I'm Buster Brown, or Hunter. I do movie and game reviews on my YouTube channel, and I also like to do the occasional short film. So if that's something also that tickles your fancy, please like and subscribe. And hit that bell notification once again. It really helps out the channel, and leave feedback once again. That's the most important thing. But let's get into the topic of the day, which is the Batman versus Spider-Man No Way Home. You know anything about me, I've done a lot of Spider-Man-centric content on my channel, and you probably would assume, well, Hunter's obviously the guy who likes Spider-Man more. And you'd be wrong! But first, let's kind of get into a quick synopsis of the movies. So, the Batman follows a young Bruce Wayne who's only 2 years into being Batman. He's not very trusted by anyone, and he causes a whole lot of fear. And he even states he doesn't even know if he's making a difference in the city. Meanwhile, this Riddler guy shows up and starts killing people, and Batman embarks on this cat and mouse detective noir film. And it's definitely a unique film in the genre. Now moving over to Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker is feeling his life is ruined after the events of Far From Home, which is, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it. If you haven't seen it, you probably weren't going to watch it anyway. So, you know already. But Peter Parker's identity is revealed to the entire world. And so he is kind of trying to deal with the repercussions of that in his life. And in order to get out of this, so to speak, he goes to Doctor Strange to cast a spell. However, it goes terribly wrong, and we get to see some old faces return, both good and bad. So, first thing I want to talk about is the visuals of the movies.
Okay.
So, the shots, the cinematography. I feel that the Batman completely destroys No Way Home, and I'll let you respond, but I'll go into it. I think that the Batman looks like an actual film. It looks like something Martin Scorsese could have come up with. The contrast, the lighting, on the production design of Gotham City, everything's wet and grounded, and nothing feels like CGI. It all feels like it's right there, and I think that's something that you can add to it. It is a dark movie, but it takes place mostly at night, and so I think it makes sense that it is a dark movie. The visual effects are never bad because they do a lot of it in camera, and that is something that you cannot say about Spider-Man No Way Home, as they use a ton of CGI, and I feel that they rushed the VFX artists in this one, because the CGI looks like some booty cheeks sometimes. I'm going to be real. It doesn't look that great. And I know that doesn't mean automatically it's a better movie, but I feel like in 20 years, people will look back and be like, wow, No Way Home does not hold up. The CG's trash. Whereas people will go back and watch the Batman and be like, yeah, this looks fine and this is totally okay. And I would say that No Way Home CGI doesn't even like compare to some of the other Spider-Man films. It's like at a Spider-Man 3 level. And that movie came out in 2007. But I just think the Batman has a much better look to it. But what do you have to say to that?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I think they're both very well shot movies. Like in terms of camera work, I think
You're wrong.
the angles are good.
Trash.
And stuff like that. But what he said about the CGI, I really didn't notice it. Like, obviously there were some parts where it was like, ooh, but like, there wasn't the whole movie. It's not like it was the whole movie. It was like maybe in some specific parts. But for the most part, I think they're both pretty good visually. Maybe Batman slightly has the edge in visuals.
Slightly?
Yeah. So like I think the Batman has the edge in visuals probably, but I feel like Spider-Man isn't that bad. Isn't that far behind, I guess. Plus Batman is a much darker tone, like darker movie. Like the tones are darker, the characters are darker, the villains are even darker. Literally everything is darker, including the actual lighting. So, so it's a very dark movie in comparison to No Way Home, which has a lot more brighter. Now, there's definitely dark moments in No Way Home, obviously, but like when it's nighttime, like visually it's dark, and there's also dark moments, like within the story. But overall, I think the visuals are good. I think it depends what type of tone you're going for. If you're trying to go like for like I'm super depressed type mood, then yeah, maybe the Batman works for you. But if you're going for a more like, yo, I'm trying to see some of my favorite actors get together to fight bad guys, in a bright like almost comic booky way, I think then yeah, I would definitely go with No Way Home for the visuals. But they both have their advantages, obviously.
I will say that No Way Home is a lot more colorful. So if you don't like the dark drab aesthetic of the Batman, you're going to be let down. I hate to break it. You're going to be disappointed. You'll be like, what the heck? I can't see. It's not a movie you can watch during the day, because if there's any sun in that room, you're going to be like, what's going on? I can't see anything. Where No Way Home, I feel like you can watch at any time and it will be fine. And to be fair, I don't think No Way Home is like, as he said, is a garbage looking movie. I just think it's very average amongst the MCU type of movies, and it just feels like it fits in there fine. It's not like the worst, but it's not the best, and you can tell they shot during COVID, to be fair, and that they had some limitations, like having to sort of like Thomas Hayden Church, I can't remember his name. The point is, whoever plays the Sandman in No Way Home, you can tell that they kind of the actor wasn't there, so they just had this CGI sand guy, and they used stock footage from Spider-Man 3 to show him in human form, which is kind of comical. I guess it's a comic book movie though. But yeah, I agree. I think the Batman has the better visuals, unless you don't like dark drab textures everywhere. So but yeah, the Batman is a better looking movie in my opinion, and I think we can move on from this topic and go to something related to visual, but the action. Ooh. So I think action is an important thing in like any superhero movie. I think that you need action in order to engage an audience. Like I think should be a good balance. He's smiling at me from a room. Something like that.
Yo. But
my opinion, the action is far better. Far from home, bro. It's far better than the action in No Way Home. The Batman's action is better than the action in No Way Home. And
It's like a Charmander.
I'll tell you why. The shots. There's so many unique and creative sequences within the Batman. Some that come to mind is the Batmobile chase, where he's chasing down the Penguin, and it feels like an actual car like chase. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is like some comic booky thing. You really feel the power of that souped up Charger that he's driving around in, and it looks really cool just from a visual standpoint, but there's a certain kinetic flow and energy to it that I find very impressive. The hand-to-hand combat is always satisfying. It never comes off as like, oh, well, like, whatever, CGI mess. No. You see it, you feel it, and the sound design adds to that. There's so much crunch and like bite to whatever Batman lands a hit, and you're like, this guy is really brutal. I like the scene where he uses his little wingsuit for the first time. The way they shoot it, it adds a lot of like velocity and momentum and sort of anxiety to it that I feel is missing from No Way Home's action sequences. There's a scene where he's walking down a hallway and it's dark and it's only lit up from the gunfire of these dudes. There's like a nightclub scene where he just beats up a bunch of people and there's strobe lights and he's just going on a rampage. I think the Batman just has a lot of action, whereas the No Way Home, I feel, is missing this sort of kinetic flow and energy. And I know this kind of falls into the shots and the cinematography, but that's kind of where I'm at with the Batman. But what is your thoughts on the action?
All right, first thing I want to say, if you're more into like super violent, brutal, like John Wick-esque combat, then you're probably gonna like the combat scenes, at least in Batman more, because it's very similar to like John Wick's like hand-to-hand combat in the Batman, just very like bone-crunching, violent. Some people are sensitive to that though, so keep that in mind.
There's some sensitivity.
But in Spider-Man Far From Home, even if the action isn't as like bone-crunching,
Far From Home?
No Way Home. Even if the action isn't as like bone crunching, it's like it's more exciting in my opinion, because basically like you're just literally like swinging around buildings. Literally didn't Tom Holland get like the Tiva bombed or whatever it's called, like through like an apartment complex?
Power bombed, yeah.
Yeah, like power bombed through it, like
God.
WWE move through an apartment complex.
That was pretty cool.
I don't remember that happening in the Batman, but I'm not completely sure. There's just a lot more destruction. There's a lot more destruction and mayhem in the action in the No Way Home. Yeah, mayhem and like just violent, like not violence, but like chaos in the No Way Home. Like it's there's a lot more destruction and stuff. So if you like more like property damage, in terms of property damage, No Way Home definitely take like easily millions. Tens of millions of dollars of property damage, and some people like seeing mass property damage.
Bro, there was like a bunch of vans that blew up and caused Gotham City to be entirely flooded. That's a lot of property damage, if you ask me. You know?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like visually.
I know from the action. I know.
Yeah, like in like an action sense, like just buildings are being destroyed left and right, and it's just a lot of different explosions and stuff. And it's really cool. I'm gonna be real. I prefer it to just. I kind of prefer it. It depends on my mood. Some days I might prefer the just simple hand-to-hand combat, but sometimes I like the more like just destructive combat from No Way Home.
Well, I think I'll say to kind of finish up on this. I think that the hand-to-hand combat definitely looks more natural and realistic, and like I said, the bone-crunching sound effects really add a nice flavor.
Well, in fairness, they're not really like superhuman in the Batman. Like obviously, Batman has the more than average human strength, but like
yeah, and that's the thing.
They're not superhuman in the Batman.
It's kind of like it's the difference between watching someone like in like an MMA fight, where you're like, oh, that's crazy, and then watching. Well, I guess MMA is not it, but like, you know, watching something and then like watching Dragon Ball, where you just these superhuman beings are just throwing blows at each other, and so it's not that level in No Way Home, obviously, but you get to see superhuman throwdowns where the Batman, although ridiculous things happen that wouldn't probably happen in real life, it could technically happen.
It's all it's all very grounded in comparison, I would say.
Whereas like radioactive spiders and robotic tentacles and superhuman strength are all things that you will get in No Way Home. And so if you like,
as I said, the fighting is much more like it's just very typical like Marvel comic type fighting.
Yeah, and I would say that there's also some really cool scenes, and this will lead into the next thing I want to talk about, with the multiple Spider-Man teaming up against multiple villains. That can be very satisfying. Robbie P.
Yeah, like
he doesn't team up with anyone.
Like Batman's like 1v10ing these people, but it's hilarious to see like Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire get all together to like jump somebody, like just like completely jump somebody, like a 3v1. You don't see that in the Batman. You see a 1v3 in the Batman, but you don't see a 3v1.
Yeah, and so
it's very funny to see, but like in a good way, like it's like an action way.
Yeah, and so it's funny, but I would say that the stakes don't feel as high because the emotional tension isn't as high. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I would just say it's a different thing, and I prefer the action in the Batman, but I would admit that there's a lot more like CGI blockbuster spectacle in No Way Home. So if that's your thing.
Much more dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. All of Gotham City's about. I guess in
more dramatic in terms of the whole world or something.
Yeah, the multiverse is closing in.
It's high stakes.
I guess that is a high stakes bout.
It's perhaps higher stakes even.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess my problem is that the action feels to me, although I think cool things happen conceptually, I feel like a lot of it comes off as hollow in the sense that there's CGI. There's like no humans around really, and so it's just like these CGI characters flying around. And to me, it happens sometimes, I don't know if you can.
We'll fix it.
I don't know if you can tell. This is not the highest budget set.
This is good, like $400, $300 setup here, maybe less. But I think the lights actually cost more than the TV, which is the problem.
I got this TV for $40.
Yeah. So we're definitely running on a budget here, guys.
We're balling on.
Editors know. Yeah, we're running on a budget. But you know what?
Once we make our millions with this podcast,
we're gonna make it look really nice. We're gonna get we're gonna get like a stone brick castle.
This is the next Joe Rogan that you're watching right now in the making. By
exactly.
episode 1,000, you'll see.
Exactly. Episode 1,000, we're gonna be balling.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the action to me is a lot more CGI spectacle, but it misses a human element, a more grounded element. And I get it; it's superheroes, so that might not be your thing. And there's a good chance you'll enjoy the action better in No Way Home. But personally, I enjoy the Batman. But to have action, for the heroes to have people to fight, they need a villain. Right? And both of these movies have a lot of villains, all right? You have Catwoman, the Penguin, Carmine Falcone, and of course the Riddler and the Batman. And then you have like 5 villains in No Way Home with the Lizard and Electro, Dr. Octavius, Sandman, and of course the Green Goblin. And although I think we could argue the merits between which one had better villains overall, I more want to focus on the 2 main villains, and that's the Green Goblin and the Riddler. They give very different performances, I would say. Like the Green Goblin has a much more campy, like maniacal evil genius type of performance, and I would say the Riddler is almost more like an incel, if anything. He comes off as this sort of
nerdy,
nerdy
like incel type character, but like
nerdy.
Incel for Batman. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It's interesting, and I think the one thing I would say about that's interesting about the villains because by the way, there is no bad villain here. The Green Goblin is amazing, and I think Paul Dano's Riddler is amazing. So there's not really I would say you can make an argument for either one, and in a lot of ways, comparing and contrasting Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin to the Riddler they're almost opposite characters. The Riddler grew up with no money and was beaten down by society, and he's like, I want to take this out on the elite, the top, the corrupt, the people who led me to be this way. And he's like this psychotic maniac, but he just tries to use his mind. And in a way, he's doing similar things to Batman. I think that he kind of contrasts and helps Batman with his art. But then you have the Green Goblin, who's pretty much the opposite. He's rich, He
grew up rich, probably. His dad probably owned this
He's rich.
company.
He's a businessman. He's the one screwing people over. But also, his message is the complete opposite. He thinks about the world as a group of elites. Like, hey, we are the top of the food chain. We need to embrace that. And we need to basically rule over everyone else because we're better than everyone else. And I think, although he's a crazy maniac, obviously, I think that's a message we can all relate to in a way. Is we all want to be special. We all want to be, better. It's not like we're like, oh, well, I have $1 million, but I'm just going to give that all away and then live in my poverty. No, if you have the opportunity, you'll take that opportunity. And I think the Green Goblin's like, hey, we have the opportunity. And although it's definitely twisted and taken way too far, yeah, he has a point. As well as Paul Dano's Riddler has a point. Hey, the corrupt public officials, that dang Norman Osborn taxing the people, acting like he's all good, even though it's in different universes. He's like, we need to fight against the top of the food chain because they've screwed us over. And I think that's a relatable message as well, taken too far.
One thing I'll say is I feel like Norman Osborn, I think ever since Spider-Man 2002?
Yeah,
Spider-Man 2002, he's always had this really interesting character where it's he's got good side, bad side, obviously.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, split personality, which I always thought was really interesting, even if he doesn't. But I've always thought that the split.
Do you see? I have 2 Green Goblin action figures on my table here. I love.
Where's the Batman figures? Oh, let me stop.
Anyway, okay, shut up, bro.
Anyways,
the Batmobile's right there.
Anyways, the split personality thing was always interesting to me because it's he's got got a nice man type side, but even in his nice man type side, he's actually not all that nice. Because if you think about his son. He's an asshole to his son. He hates his son for some reason. I don't know why. And it's he's always mean to his son. He's always gushing over Peter in front of him. And it's yo.
Well, I would say that we're reviewing more of 2002 right now, so I would say, but I think they actually do the split maybe more prevalently in No Way Home, where he seems like he's a nice guy in No Way Home, and then he's got a bad side. They make the split a lot more of, yes, he's good, he's bad. And I think, one way I like to look at it, and this is just my own personal opinion with Norman Osborn's Green Goblin, is that it's, I think it's all Norman Osborn, right? And that's what I think is interesting. I think everything there is Norman Osborn, but it's almost like it fragments him. It's it takes all of the ambition, all of the drive, all of the sort of money-mongering ways of Norman Osborn, and it puts it into an alternate persona. And then you take the good qualities of Norman Osborn, the man who's just trying to keep his business alive, and the one that does care for his son, and it takes that persona and it kind of puts it over into its own separate camp. If I had to draw any comparisons, and spoiler for this movie that came out in 1960, but Psycho, you have Norman Bates, right? And it's sort of, you have where he's got the mom personality and he's got the Norman Bates personality, and the mom personality is stronger and slowly takes over, and it's kind of the same with Norman Osborn, where the goblin side slowly takes over the weaker side. And I think there's a lot of layers that Willem Dafoe is able to add while also having a fun, campy performance. And I think he does a fantastic job, to be honest. And I really have no complaints. And also, just on how he helps the hero grow. Like,
he completely changes Tom Holland.
Yes.
Like Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Tom Holland's Peter Parker is completely, forever, ever changed by Green Goblin.
Exactly.
Mental trauma.
Yeah, and it's one of my biggest problems, and if you watch my Spider Rambles video, you know that I'm not a fan of Far From Home and Homecoming.
I like Homecoming.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of those movies because Spider-Man to me doesn't feel like Spider-Man. He feels like Iron Boy Jr. He doesn't feel like he's the kid who learned with great power comes great responsibility.
Well, I'm gonna be real though. Like on a side note though, I think Iron Boy Jr. is actually kind of what they're trying to build up to. Him being Iron Boy Jr. Like I think they're actually using that as like that's one of the plot points. Like he's trying to build away from Iron Man.
And it sucks.
Iron Boy Jr. Okay, well we're just gonna cut this part out.
No, anyway, so I was kidding. Okay. Yeah, no, well, okay, I see what you're saying. But yeah, it's basically he's Iron Boy Jr. for the first movie and the second movie, and I'm like, bruh, this guy feels like he hasn't learned with great power comes great responsibility. And then it's almost like the movie realized, shoot, it doesn't feel like he's learned with great pain.
And then he starts, and then in the third movie, it's very, very evident that's the main theme, I would say, of Spider-Man No Way Home, in my opinion.
Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility.
That is the main theme.
That is the message of that movie. Aunt May says it, and you realize, oh shoot, he hasn't had that moment yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, we all just assumed Uncle Ben was in the picture. But he wasn't. It seems like he was never in the picture. It was always Aunt May. And I think that it's an interesting way to do it, and it fixes my biggest problem. It gives Tom Holland some responsibility, and I think the Green Goblin is the person who facilitates that. And in that sense, I think he's a great villain. Paul Dino does a similar thing to the Batman, to move over to the Riddler, in the sense that the Riddler actually is a fan of Batman. It's actually a really great twist. If you watch the movie the first time and you go back and watch it, you realize, oh yeah, the Riddler thinks they're buddies.
Yeah, the Riddler was spawned from Batman, actually.
Yeah, and it's so...
Riddler wouldn't exist if Batman didn't exist, because Batman showed that anybody can do it.
Yeah, well, he's a rich billionaire, but like it feels that way to the general public.
It feels like anyone can do it.
Exactly, and it shows kind of how Batman's sort of violent, like, I don't really care, I don't want to be a symbol of hope, I don't give a crap about any of that, is not the way to go.
Because now he's influencing people in, like, bad ways. That's like when bigger content creators on YouTube or Twitch start saying things that are kind of inappropriate. They're not really thinking about how it could actually influence these people, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing.
And so it's basically they say things and it influences things, and you realize the bigger the platform you have, is you have to be more, you have to mind what you do more often and stuff. And so, I mean,
yeah,
you've seen...
I love the Batman's use of real life psychology.
Yeah, and I feel like it does it in, I would say, maybe a more mature way than No Way Home. I don't mean that to slight No Way Home this time. It's more of like, No Way Home is more cut and dry, and whereas it's a lot more nuanced in the Batman. It kind of leads you to sort of...
I would say a majority of the people who watched the Batman probably didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's a more nuanced perspective. You have to think about it. It's like if you're someone who just like yo, I like to watch a movie every now and then. Like, yo, Bullet Train looked cool. Let me watch that. Then yeah, maybe you won't catch the perspective. You're just like, oh, well, that was a cool movie. It was like 3 hours. It was too long. So whatever. It's like if you pay attention though, you can catch the deeper meaning, the deeper theme. And I think that Paul Dino does a great job showing what Batman has sort of created, and also showing that Batman has the power to be something more. be something better, be a symbol, as Alfred says in Batman Begins. And so I think that it's a great message, and I think, because as we'll all have people in our life that we tell things and then they'll take our advice in a different way, and then we're like,
it goes
bruh,
horribly. And then it goes horribly, yeah. Because they misinterpreted your advice.
Yeah, it's just be careful.
It's kind of like the same thing in Batman.
Yeah, except on a grander scale where the whole city gets flooded because someone took the Batman's ways a little too seriously.
A little too seriously, yeah.
Yeah, but like, and also once again, I think the Riddler's motivations feel just in a lot of ways. I mean, it doesn't matter where you live. You felt the corruption of politics, and it bothers you a little bit. And there's something like, well, what if we just got rid of these politicians that are so corrupt? It's like, it's really annoying, and it's like you want them to be exposed. You understand that from the Riddler. And I think he's a great villain. That being said, this is the first time I'm going to just give the nod to No Way Home, because obviously I just love the Green Goblin too much. I'm not saying he's a better villain, but for me, I just think he's a more entertaining villain, more of a physical presence, and I tend to like physical villains a little bit better anyways, as opposed to the mental guy behind the scenes. And so I think that I like the Green Goblin from No Way Home better than Paul Dino's Riddler, but they're both great. What do you say?
And I think both of them. I think both the villains still actually lead up to a very similar theme, although kind of in different ways. I think they both kind of lead up to, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah,
in that way, like in different ways, but I feel like overall it's the same message, which I thought was interesting. I just thought about it while recording this podcast, while listening to him, and I was like, this kind of similar messages.
Yeah, and I want to get into sort of the last type of thing I wanted to talk about today. The protagonist, the heroes. So, Robbie P., as I like to call him, Robert Pattinson, plays Batman. And obviously Tom Holland plays Spider-Man. And Tom Holland's garbage. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He's fine. He does a good job. He does a good job in the movie. And I think Robert Pattinson does more than a good job. So, but first I want to sing praises to Tom Holland. I think this is his best performance as Spider-Man because more dramatic things happen to him. Obviously, Ant-Man gets killed.
Spoiler alert.
Bro, if you didn't know, we've been talking spoilers. I'm sorry, bro.
No,
spoiler.
I'm joking, bro.
But
yeah, definitely. I feel like Tom Holland. Yeah, I would say he's had a lot more chance to like really show himself as an actor.
Yeah,
in this
because
movie.
in Far From Home and Homecoming, it's so light. He doesn't really go through anything super serious enough that you get to see that emotional range. Where in this one,
I would say throughout the movies, each conflict got more serious and more serious.
Yeah, and so you could make the argument that it builds up to it, and so this time Tom Holland shows a lot of emotional range, and this is the first time I found myself like actively rooting for his character, and the way that the movie progresses him into sort of becoming the Spider-Man that I always wanted him to be, where he has no friends, no one knows he's Spider-Man. He realizes I can't just tell anyone willy-nilly or bad things will happen, and then he ends up in a crappy apartment with a crappy costume. It's not really crappy, but I mean, I like it, but like, it's a homemade costume.
Yeah, crappy apartment. Literally no friends. Nobody knows he's Spider-Man.
No opportunities in life, but he's still out there doing the right thing with a police scanner. It's pretty much where Spider-Man 2 starts off of in 2004, and they got him to that point. And although it's like, I don't think the movie overall is quite as good as the Batman's plot structure, because there's just a lot of nonsense for me. I feel that the movie gets Peter Parker, the hero, the protagonist, to a place where I've wanted to see him for years.
Yeah, and it's like just heart-wrenching when he sees Mary Jane, right?
Yeah, and him deciding,
he's probably like just all his head is just saying tell her, but he has to fight that impulsive, intrusive thought, I guess. and just be like, no, I can't tell her, and it's like she'd probably just think I'm a weirdo anyways, right?
Right, and this is the first time where you really felt like
Bad
for Tom Holland,
Yeah.
like in the other movies, you're like, oh man, bro, he can't. His conflict was like, dude, he can't be Ned's friend as Spider-Man at the party. He can't show off. Don't we feel bad for him? It's like, I guess. And then you have this time where it's like, finally, it's like he has a real thing. He loves this girl, and that's another thing I liked in No Way Home. The chemistry with him and Zendaya, I feel, was the best ever in this movie that we've seen.
Yeah.
You feel the chemistry there, and they do a good job showing it throughout the movie. So when they break up, or not break up, she forgets who he is. You feel it when Peter decides not to tell her, because he's doing the responsible thing. And once again, Tom Holland does a great job showing all of this off, I would say. He does, and he does a wonderful, gives a wonderful performance. And this is it's funnily enough, we might never see him as Spider-Man again.
Yeah, we like literally, we'll probably see him in cameos, but there's a chance that
we don't see him, and it's just sad because I'm the most excited for the next Spider-Man movie where he's exactly what I want him to be as Spider-Man. Now, Sony probably ruined it anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, well, anyways, it's like Robert, and I do want to talk about Robert Pattinson because I actually like his chemistry with, or not chemistry, I like his relationship
Zoe
with Alfred.
Kravitz. Oh. I thought about the girl, not the old man. I'm sorry.
Whatever. Anyways, his relationship with Alfred was really interesting to me because it's like Alfred's trying to be like a, kind of like a, not even protective, but kind of like a father to him.
Right.
And then there's like Bruce Wayne or Robert Pattinson. He's like, "You're not my dad." Like,
shut up. Okay.
And it's like, yo, it is interesting to see how they kind of like banter between them, and like Alfred's kind of disapproving of his reckless behavior, and he's like, I don't care, I hate everything, nothing matters.
All right. I need to talk about this man, Robbie P. Robert Pattinson. Tom Holland was great. Good job, kid. Have a ball. Robert Pattinson is an actor. That's going to go on the quote list right there. He is an actor. But Robert Pattinson, frick! I'm trying to talk about Robbie P, bro, and then this keeps...
We're gonna fix this eventually.
It's going to be fixed. Robert Pattinson...
Maybe not next episode.
...is the best Batman to exist. All right?
Yo! What about the Dark Knight, dog?
Christian Bale? Moron. Let me tell you something. I'm just kidding. Christian Bale's great. But if you read Batman comics, something Tanner's never done in his life. The way Robert Pattinson acts when he's Batman.
He's one of those. He's one of those.
Perfect.
He's one of those comic book nerds that are like, oh,
Shut up!
It's not 100% accurate.
I'm talking. It's my floor right now. Where's the talking stick? We don't have one of those.
We'll figure that out.
Robert Pattinson gives an all-star performance. Tom Holland did a good job. But Robert Pattinson, man, gave a performance for an Oscar-worthy performance. The way he shows emotion, right? The way he clues you into what he's thinking with the twitch of an eye and the movement of a lip is so incredible. I don't know how he does it. It's like he's hypnotizing me, but it's like I know what he's thinking about. Okay? I'm not gay for Robert Pattinson. I'm just saying. I'm not gay for Robert Pattinson. I'm just saying he gives a great.
We love gay people on the Podcastle.
The Podcastle.
We love gay people on the Podcastle, but that was pretty gay. Which is okay. We love gay people.
It's all good here. I'm not, by the way. But
yeah. I think he's got like a girlfriend or something. No, I'm not completely sure.
I do actually. I do have a woman. But I think that Robert Pattinson just gives this all-star performance, and I think it's hard to match that only because of the tone of the movie. The tone of the
the Batman is a lot more serious than No Way Home, and because of the serious tone, you need a more serious performance than a Tom Holland. And where Tom Holland, although it has the highest stakes in No Way Home, of all, my turn, bro.
Well, okay, continue.
It's even though it still has a much lighter tone than the Batman.
Drink bank. I'm trying to get.
We're not sponsored.
I'm trying to get sponsored. We're not sponsored yet.
I'm gonna get flamed for this. Drink Pepsi.
Don't listen to him.
It's better than Diet Coke, I promise. So yeah, Robert Pattinson, I feel he gives such a great performance as Batman. Every movement, his physical performance, the choreography he does, the way he looks at the camera, his chemistry with all of the actors is spot on. I think his performance, it cannot be slighted. He's perfect, man, pretty much. And I think one of the criticisms of his character, not his performance, is the idea that Bruce Wayne is this recluse. Like, obviously everyone would go and think, oh, the rich billionaire that went into hiding after his parents were killed and he regrets what happened to the city. You would maybe think, well, yeah, it's Robert Pattinson's Batman or Bruce Wayne's Batman. But I like that angle that they did in the sense that that's all he is. And it brings sort of the light to what I think is there's only one Batman. There's Bruce Wayne is the facade. Bruce Wayne is the persona, right? And the Batman is who he really is. And I think that this movie does a good job illustrating that's who he is. That's who Batman is. He's a loner, right? And Robert Pattinson does a great job. As Tanner was saying, his chemistry with Alfred is really good in the sense that he doesn't care about the legacy. He just wants to basically beat people up, and it's almost like he enjoys beating people up. It's almost like every
powerful.
Yeah, every punch he lands,
like a power trip.
Yeah, it's like every punch he lands on a criminal is him punching away at what happened to his parents. And I think that's another thing I liked about the movie. It didn't show Martha and Thomas Wayne getting shot down again.
I wanted to see those pearls drop. Actually, did it happen? Did they show the pearls
drop?
drop?
No, they did not show the pearls drop. It didn't happen in Batman.
It happened in every other Batman movie, so it's hard.
But I would also have to say that I think that his character growth is also really great. From him realizing and opening up a little bit more to Alfred about before he was only thinking like, I don't want to be afraid, but he realized he was afraid when he realized someone close to him could die again, and basically having a more protective nature as opposed to a more like violent nature is something that seemed important to him. And near the end of the movie, he goes on this thing where he realizes after he kind of spawned the Riddler and he realizes it, he's like, I have to become something more, a symbol for something hopeful. And they even use a similar shot where he's questioning everything at the beginning of the movie. And he's just looking up to the signal, the bat signal, which to me represents something like all the violence he's done. And then he looks up again, but it's as someone he's saved is on a helicopter, holding on to him, not letting go of him because he is a symbol of hope. And he realizes if I'm going to inspire lasting change, I need to be a symbol for something better. Take a shot for every time I said symbol. You'll die.
Well, let me say something. I want to start off by saying Robert Pattinson may have given the best performance of the year. The only other candidate is the actor for America Chavez from Multiverse of Madness.
What's her name? What's her name, bro? What's her name?
Okay. With the only other candidate maybe being actually I don't even know if there's another candidate. I think he might genuinely be the most he may have actually given the best performance of the year, at least so far.
I would say moving away from superheroes, you got to give one out for Austin Butler as Elvis.
I mean, yeah, he was really impressive too, I guess.
Austin Butler as Elvis.
But,
I feel like that was an Oscar-worthy performance.
Yeah, but, well, best performance in the year, like, fiction-wise. How about that? And,
I mean, okay, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, like, more like comic fiction too, not like, I guess you could say that the Elvis definitely had a little bit of fiction to it. But yeah.
That's fair.
Anyways, So I want to start by saying that, but I think Tom Holland, I mean, he just had like more traumatic stuff happen to him in his movie, unfortunately. Like if you think about it, like he said the Batman has a more serious tone, and I think it has a darker tone. I didn't say anything about a more serious tone. No, I guess you can say, yeah, they made a couple jokes in No Way Home. So like, oh, it's not as serious, but I still think it's just as serious, even with the jokes, obviously. But yeah, like when Aunt May died, like I actually felt myself. I was getting a little teary eyed. Like that was really sad because like
I'm not a fan of that Aunt May, unfortunately.
you can tell how
I was
like
glad she was gone.
okay, bro.
I'm sorry.
You could tell like the emotion in Tom Holland. You could tell that he was really, really hurting inside after that happened. Exact same thing happened. Like the amount of trauma he was probably going through when he had to see his two best friends literally, and they didn't even know him. Imagine you saw your best friend.
Let's be real though.
And you didn't even know him, bro.
Imagine he didn't care about Ned. He cared about Zendaya. Let's be real. He wasn't looking at Ned like, oh hi Ned. He was like, Zendaya, you're the real hard one. Let's be real.
Okay, well, it's like your wife, for example. You'd probably be more sad about your wife versus your best friend if your wife didn't know you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyways, getting off topic, and it's like some of your two closest friends, or one closest friend, or your like lover, and they just act like they don't act, they don't even know you. You're basically just a regular person to them that they've never seen before. So Tom probably was like really going through it in that moment, in my opinion, because like, and I think that's just as serious as a Batman movie. So even if it's not darker, I think it's just as serious.
I will say this for Tom Holland is Spider-Man. When it comes from a character at the beginning of the movie versus character at the end of the movie,
the character development is, I would say, just as great as
and I feel like
Robert Pattinson.
This doesn't go. I guess this goes away from the movie. I think what hurts for me is like it feels like the first two movies, his character like didn't grow much at all, and then this last movie, like we'll give it all to him in this movie. And so I would say whereas Robert Pattinson's Batman feels like over a 3-hour period he learns like, oh, I need to take a step in a new direction. where Tom Holland's character, Peter Parker, has a complete course correction.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah.
In Homecoming, like you can kind of see it develops, but then in Far From Home, he makes another dumb mistake, right?
Yeah, it's like it feels like he regresses.
And then after Far From Home, he's like, oh, surely he's done making dumb mistakes. Beginning of No Way Home, he makes another incredibly stupid mistake. It's like he makes all these dumb mistakes instead of just taking a responsibility for his actions, basically. Like, especially No Way Home, instead of just taking accountability for what he did, what he does is he tries to make everyone forget it. Which is like, yo.
But that's why I like how it's sad that he does, but he makes everyone forget him in the process. That's his punishment.
And that's his and I think that, but the one in No Way Home is like his punishment. He actually was punished in No Way Home. Like, well, his punishment in Far From Home was obviously everyone knowing his identity, but like his actual punishment, like this is probably the most serious punishment he's gotten so far from any of his actions.
Yeah.
It's basically, he literally, nobody knows him anymore. He's a nobody. Nobody even, do people even know who Spider-Man is?
They know who Spider-Man is. Everyone remembers Spider-Man, but they don't remember Peter Parker.
Yeah, so basically anyone who's ever known Peter Parker doesn't know Peter Parker, including all the Avengers, all the like Doctor Strange. I don't think Doctor Strange knows him either, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
And
nobody
so
knows him.
I would say that for that reason, you could make. I would say that Tom definitely has a more of a complete development because he goes from point A to point B, and it's a completely different change. Whereas Batman, by the end of the movie, it's more like, oh, my mindset's changed on things. I got to do things differently.
While it's more like he's a completely different person.
And it's
by the end.
And he's like, and so I would say that the Batman feels more natural for that reason for myself. And I think that it also, the movie, I know it seems like it's like, wow, all these 3 hours for a course correction, like basically like a little bit of a step in the right direction there. It seems silly, but yeah, I think what we have to remember is this is the first movie in the Batman. This is his step into a new thing. Now, if it's
it's kind of like Christian Bale's Batman. First movie, he develops a bit. Second movie develops. Third movie develops until he's a fully developed character, right?
Yeah, and for me, it's like the Spider-Man home trilogy. I guess I'll dub it. It feels like the first two movies.
There wasn't much development.
There was nothing, and then the third one, they're like, let's throw all the development in there, and so it feels like it happens really, really fast. And so
that's part of the reason I don't like Far From Home, for example. I don't like that any development that he should have been developed from Homecoming, for example, but all the development and responsibility like Tony gave him, he just swept it all away in the second movie in the trilogy. So that's why I actually very much dislike Far From Home. It's definitely by far my least favorite in the trilogy.
Yeah, and so I'd have to agree with you there. But yeah, at that same time, I think Robert Pattinson's also just, for me, he's such he's so cool. I know I sound weird, but like, I'm telling you, like his Batman is just, he's such a brooding man. I'll sound okay. Bear with me here. It's just, he's just cool, bro. I just like how violent he is. How he's
rainbow flag slowly fades into the screen.
No, we're not doing that. Luckily, I'm editing the video. Ha!
If you want, I'll edit it.
No, I'm okay. But I think that Robert Pattinson's Batman. I just like the brutality of the character, and I like how he realizes he needs to change at the end of the movie. And I think it's his arc is serviced very well by the cinematography and the shots, and everything feels very intentional. Everything feels like it all works as a solid unit to get Robert Pattinson where he starts at point A to point B. And I love that about Pattinson's character. I also think his chemistry with Catwoman is great. Commissioner Gordon is great. Alfred, it's great. Like everyone he interacts with, it just feels solid. I like how intimidating he is. And it's to the point where he almost comes off as a villain at times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comparisons to him in the Riddler, and so I kind of like that. And I think that,
I mean, he's literally, if he was in Marvel, he'd almost certainly be a villain. If someone in his costume in Marvel, if someone had a similar costume in Marvel, for example, they'd be a villain, hands down.
And so I would say that.
But that's just DC and Marvel differences, I would say.
Well, to be fair, Marvel
DC's always had a much darker tone.
And to be fair, Marvel does have villains,
much more serious.
Or heroes like the Punisher and Daredevil, which are a lot darker in nature. So it's like they do have some. I
consider them more like anti-heroes.
Yeah, and it's almost like Batman's an anti-hero, to be honest. But
that's actually how he's described most of the time.
Yeah, and he's not described as an anti-hero usually, but
not anti-hero, but
is a darker hero. And
yeah.
I would say that to put a cap on this podcast, I would say, and on this topic, is if you want a more nuanced approach to a hero and you want something maybe with a little bit more substance under the surface, I would say that the Batman is the way you should go, and Batman would be a more appealing character to you. Whereas if you're someone who likes more of like the spectacle, the blockbuster, but also have a blockbuster with heart. It's not it's not hollow. It's more shallow, but there's still something there at the core of the movie. And if you want all the spectacle with maybe not so much nuance, but definitely a heartfelt message that you could go home with, maybe I would say that No Way Home is the movie for you. And honestly, they're movies for everyone. I think everyone should watch both movies and decide which they like better, and not even decide, just like them for their own merits. They're very different movies.
If you wanna be depressed after finishing the movie, I'd say watch No Way Home. But if you wanna have kind of more heart-warmed feeling, I would say watch the Batman.
Which is ironic because
it's very ironic.
The Batman's depressing throughout the entire movie. And Homecoming's pretty lighthearted. Not Homecoming. No Way Home is pretty lighthearted throughout the movie. So
yeah,
I would say that they're both. I would say they're both at least good, right? And your mileage may vary on which one achieves excellence and then which one is just like, yeah, it's fine. And depending on your tastes,
it really just depends on the person. I mean, literally, like, half of people will say they like Batman, half of people will say they like No Way Home. It's that type of thing. It's just like,
it's just, you know,
it's literally
the
just
half
a
that say
difference
they
in
like
taste.
Batman are enlightened, and the ones that, you know, like Spider-Man No Way Home are just Marvel shows.
What? Don't listen to him. You like what you like, and if it's just, yeah, you like what you like. Don't listen to him. Liking either one more doesn't make you a DC show or a Marvel show. It's just whichever you prefer. No, I hope.
Anyways, guys, we're gonna have to put a cap on that podcast.
Leave in the comments any of your thoughts. Which ones you liked better?
Yeah.
If you liked No Way Home or Batman better.
Yeah, and do you agree with me or do you agree with my brother Tay here? I'd like to know. I think it would be very interesting to find out. Obviously, I love discourse and I love the opposing opinions. Do you disagree with both of us? Do you think both movies are just hot trash?
And do you and also comment what you want to see next? So
yeah, like what type of content?
Yeah.
Is there any video games?
Any
movies?
Yeah,
stuff like that. That would be really great. I wanna get people invested. I wanna get people commenting. Whether it's just if you're just one person, you're like, yeah, I want to leave my opinion. I think you should
maybe
do
we'll
it.
do kids movies next. Maybe we'll do Sonic 2 versus Despicable Me, because me and him both have different, Rise of Gru obviously, but me and him both have very different opinions on which one we like better. So yeah,
because Sonic 2's better. But no,
spoiler alert.
I'm just kidding.
But
yeah, let us know. And leave feedback. Like, what are things that you think we could improve? What are things that we could get better? I mean, there's obviously a load of things. Maybe we meander a little bit too much staying on topic. Just let us know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, and I will see you on the next episode of the podcast. Take care.
P.S. Don't bother leaving a note about how I went into that weird Spider-Man 2002 game. I realized it.
Okay, we're getting around.
We realized, okay, it won't happen again.
Yeah, thanks.